Welcome back to Spider-Man Swings Around the Game, because that's what he does in all of them. Haha.
If this were Marvel vs. Capcom, every time you went 5 feet, you'd go web swing, web swing, web swing.
Web swing.
Web shot.
Web lob.
Ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da.
This one's for JJ. Actually, no. Fuck JJ.
Are you sure that's not Deadpool's dialogue lines?
I don't know, because I feel like Spider-Man and Deadpool, at least in the games, have some sort of medium awareness.
Wait, hang on. MJ accomplished
wins.
something?
I mean, yes, in the fact that she did. No, in the sense that we know all of Lee's holdings. So all she really did was just kind of get things moving a little bit faster because Peter was just going to investigate them anyway.
Oh.
She tried.
So
I mean,
it's like,
I'd say she saved him time, but she sure as hell didn't save us time.
yeah.
It would have gone faster if we played it as Spider-Man.
Yeah, just keep it brief. Cliff notes.
Pete would have just, climbed on the ceiling, avoided everyone and just gone right in.
Like, MJ's gotta know some of Peter's superhero friends, right? Like, is Matt doing anything at the moment? He could sneak in.
Iron Fist.
Well,
Iron Fist and Luke Cage are never doing anything. They could have handled this.
Yeah.
MJ still, has a very important role in the game. Without her, we wouldn't have the NVIDIA Hairworks. So,
I do have to say that ponytail is actually fairly impressive in that it's not clipping through her jacket. Like,
oh yes, ponytail physics had taken massive leaps forward ever since The Witcher 3.
It's one of those. just back on the previous topic a little bit. It's one of those. I know the idea is that Pete has to be poor to be relatable and all that, but it is just one of those. Tony, for the amount of money it takes you to build a single pinky figure of an Iron Man suit, you could just buy Pete a condo in Midtown or something.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Just help the poor kid out, would you?
It's just one of those things. Whenever you have a character like Tony or Bruce Wayne in a story like this, it's just like, hey, Bruce, wanna rent Clark out a nice apartment in Metropolis, please?
Oh no, he does do that.
Oh, he does do that. Okay.
Whenever of the main leagues are in trouble for whatever reason, he foots the bill.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If for whatever reason at Wally's house, there was a big storm that ripped the roof off, Bruce would just pay for it.
Bruce literally bought them the Watchtower in most of the continuities. I know
that Tony funds the Avengers Mansion. So, everybody who's part of the Avengers gets a place to sleep for free, and so I guess Peter got that when he was on the team, but I'm also just not a fan of Peter being on the Avengers in general, because it kind of, I feel like Spider-Man works
I can't imagine that conversation, though. It's like, Peter, you're off the team. Does that mean I'm homeless now? Yes.
Then, of course, there was that thing.
Can I have my old room?
Then, of course, there was that thing where the Justice Society gave Power Girl a secret identity complete with enough money to found a company and do mad sciencey things. I'm never going to let that go.
How much extra money does Bruce Wayne have lying around?
She invented the gray goo.
He's a billionaire.
The thing is, comic book characters have infinite amounts of money. You know this.
Yeah, I know.
So it becomes a plot point.
I can believe that Bruce can rent out Superman and the Flash nice apartments or whatever, but I have a hard time believing that Bruce Wayne can afford a startup and a whole new life for Power Girl on top of all of the funds she needs to hire a bunch of people, get an HR system going,
and invent the gray goo.
Yeah, exactly.
I realize a lot of people don't know what
I
I'm
love this
talking about.
incarnation of Tombstone.
Okay.
It sounds like he has a lot of good incarnations.
He's got exactly one other one in that Spectacular Spider-Man where he's basically just Kingpin.
Oh, boy.
Ooh, this guy has Logan sideburns. Wolverine confirmed?
Yes. By the way, this is happening after that announcement, so...
Oh, yeah. BrainScratch does it again. You're welcome.
Well, we did that, and we called... I mean, I'd say I don't want to say we called Venom, because that was such a safe bet.
Oh,
okay, that
boy.
is pretty badass.
That's kind of like... It's kind of like Jack Baker from Resident Evil 7, only you didn't blow his brains out.
Yeah, you see, Jack Baker would blow his brains out, and they'd kind of reform after you pour some water on it. It's a lot cooler when you just don't take any damage at all.
So what is Tombstone's deal? This is not a villain I'm familiar with.
He's kind of just a
basic-
thug that's really, really
he's-
strong.
And
Yeah, he's
impervious
not-
to direct headshots.
Basically, his shtick is that due to like some kind of chemical mishap, he's nigh invulnerable in the sense that Pete just can't punch him to submission.
I think
Like any superhero of moderate, fantastical ability would easily beat him.
he's basically
Oh.
Luke Cage, if you think about
Yeah.
it. Like,
Oh,
Yeah, I would say Luke Cage is an
I don't
person.
remember if their way they got their powers was related in any way. I know that it was a prison thing for most of the Luke Cage incarnations. I honestly am not super familiar with Tombstone, so I don't really remember how he got his
He's
powers.
it's one of those. He's not super interesting, which is why he's usually relegated to like side questy things.
Yeah, but I mean, he is a good kind of threatening mid-boss kind of thug, which I think they did a really good job at setting up in that scene. So, especially when you have a character like Spider-Man who has so many villains, it's good that when they can take some of the lesser ones and then make them effective at the small role that they're filling in the story. We were talking about this last part, but one of the good things about having a wide and varied villains galleries is that even if you were doing like a Riddler story in Batman, for example, you could still have Penguin be there and Batman could break in and interrogate him for mob information or whatever, and it just makes the world feel more fleshed out. That was actually one thing I remember being disappointed about in the Dark Knight movies, now that I'm thinking about it, is that the mob people were really, really boring in the Dark Knight movies. And they
The problem is the mob guys are generally boring no matter what they're. You have Falcone, and that's kind of it.
I'm just going to say, while I don't really like MJ's gameplay sequences, the exchanges she has with Peter in cutscenes, they're endearing. I like them. I like them well enough. It's like, you can sort of see flashes of that story I was talking about in earlier parts, that this game is just not the right place to tell.
Oh, they're doing the whole side quick partner bit.
Not again.
Is this
boy.
Peter's apartment or MJ's apartment?
Peter doesn't have an apartment, remember?
Oh, right. He's living at the shelter.
The homeless shelter, yeah.
That was pretty cool. Just catch the phone with your web.
It at least excuses the fact that at least they have an excuse as to why everyone doesn't have perfect aim when tossing their phones about.
This has anything to do with me, do you?
Sorry to cook.
How did you get...
Did you just leave your clothes on the kitchen floor?
Leave, Peter, leave. No.
The couch is fine.
You didn't even fold them, Peter. God.
Okay. Like I said, the exchanges between Peter and MJ are cute. That's some good stuff.
Wait, you get XP just for going on a dinner date? Wow. Maybe that's why.
It's 'cause
No, I think it's tallying the mission to the MJ mission.
Yeah, it's the MJ mission.
Yeah.
So what do we know about Charles?
Oh, yeah. You just
No,
sort of...
no, MJ gets the experience and just during the cutscene, she just flashes and glows for a second.
Yeah. What the fuck?
I leveled up. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, but what does leveling up mean when you're a normal human in New York?
Let me know.
It means that your courage and your academics went up, and you can unlock new social links.
Yeah, it's like working out. That's leveling up.
Partners.
So what, now MJ can become closer with Aunt May or something? Cool.
Yes.
One of these days, it's just a cutscene's gonna begin with you just fucking face planting into the asphalt.
I like the cutscene from Spider-Man 3 where you don't do the QTE, right?
No, just like in the middle of the scene, Sonic the Werehog face plants into the road.
I'm gonna die.
Honestly, that feels like it would be out of a Spider-Man comic where he's web swinging and you see something, gets distracted and face plants into a wall. Marvel, hire me.
Oh, I just totally no-sold that mailbox exploding.
I need to read more comics.
Oh, yeah, I would if they weren't so goddamn expensive.
Well, what they need to do at this point is just both of them, just make it part of HBO Max or Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It's like you get every comic every week and guarantee people would actually read them now.
If you wanted to sell the comics to kids too, because honestly, if you want the comics as a medium to grow, I feel like making kids actually read them would be a big part.
Print is dead.
Well, no, that's also the
Well,
thing, though.
well,
like,
again,
graphic
but-
novels
well-
are really popular with kids right now. There's a bunch of them. They're just not
Yeah,
superhero.
manga sells great.
Yeah, and it does because it's a better deal. It takes just as long to read a manga as it does to read a trade paperback most of the time, and they're half the price, and come out way faster. So it's like
They're also more consistently in what you're getting there because it's like, oh, what run is this for this character? I don't know who's running on the book. now.
Yeah, but at the same time, manga are much more low budget in terms of production.
That is true. Like with a lot of Western comics, you are
They're-
getting,
they're-
I don't want to say better art, but more detailed art.
They're
a lot of the
fully
time.
colored.
fully
Fully
colored,
colored.
more detailed, more people working together to create the production. Whereas with manga, they're put together in a week for a weekly magazine publication and not even published
I mean, there's monthly magazines,
individually.
but
Well, there are monthly magazines but generally speaking, those comics are longer, so it's the same general
yeah.
content.
You're basically
Like,
trading focus for polish. Is what you're going for there.
But as a result though, they can put out content at a lower cost, so they don't necessarily need as large a return. And they're not even publishing issues individually. They're publishing them in a monthly, weekly burst as part of a larger magazine.
I think that if it weren't for really, really hardcore fans, issues for comics would have died out over a decade ago. Probably two, honestly.
What they really need to do is just scrap floppies altogether and just stick to graphic novel format. So you can be an ongoing, continuous story, but it's like just scrap the single issue thing.
You know what? I feel like
Well-
we had this exact conversation in one of the
We
Arkham
have.
We
games,
probably
like 7-8 years
did.
ago.
We probably
Yeah.
did, but to be honest, I don't really think that's feasible unless they lower the production value of the comics themselves. Because, generally speaking, a trade is 6 issues at a minimum, right?
Yeah, and they're usually like 20.
That's half a year's of comics.
Yeah, but at the same time, I have to wonder how much money floppies make DC and Marvel. I can't imagine.
They
much.
don't. They're money sinks.
Yes.
They're there to get stories out, so you can potentially use them for TV or movies or something.
Yeah, but I'm sure that the trades definitely make more money. So I feel like you could release trades at the same.
There
rate.
needs to be a more consistent sales and marketing routine to keep these things alive, because it's not that people won't read the comics. They will, but the format isn't exactly easy to follow.
Yeah, that's the number one thing I always hear for people whenever they're talking about Western comics is oh, where do I start? And that's why Marvel and DC.
And the answer is, who the fuck knows? No matter what they do.
Yeah, that's why
and
Marvel and DC always reboot everybody all the time and always have huge, big events, is because they want to have jumping on points for people.
Well, that's a thing, yeah, but with manga, it's one ongoing story, so there's only
The
one
problem is more so the shared universe thing. What they really need to do is just, if a character wants to appear in the Batman book, it's like, say, Green Arrow teams up because they're both, the whole normal person vigilante thing. Fine. It really shouldn't matter what's going on in Green Arrow's book when you do that.
Yeah, even the crossovers that sort of make sense, like the Bat Family stuff, have a tendency to get a bit convoluted to follow at times. Reading the New 52 Gail Simone run of Batgirl, really good until right in the middle of an ongoing arc. It just sort of takes a break for a few issues to give me two unconnected parts of an interconnected Bat Family story about owls or something.
The Court of Owls storyline?
Yeah.
Is that New 52?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be New 52. It was supposed to be a Dick Grayson's Batman story.
So there was
But then the reboot happened. But
one of my favorite comic runs is oh god, who did it? Oh god, it was Daredevil. Hold on, I gotta.
the Mark Waid.
Mark Waid, thank you. Mark Waid's run on Daredevil was really, really good. And part of why I liked it so much is that when they did have a couple of crossovers with Spider-Man or Punisher, And while they did somewhat tie into where they were in the story at that point, like what Peter was up to, what Punisher was up to, you didn't need to know what they were up to at that point. They did a really good job, like cluing you in. Oh, this is Punisher's friend, so and so. I don't remember her name.
You can do interconnected universes gracefully without making the story feel incomplete.
It's
Like-
more so by the nature of comic books; they have to go on forever.
Yeah, like I don't
Yeah,
feel like
it-
I should need to read Daredevil to understand Spider-Man. I feel
The
like
real-
it's the big thing.
The real problem, though, for me, is that when these interconnected stories happen, they tend to interrupt other interconnected other like more focused stories that are going on. Rather, like I bring up Gail Simone's Batgirl again. That Court of Owls storyline just sort of interposed itself into the middle of something that was already going on in Batgirl's own series. So the story that the writers clearly wanted to tell had to go on pause for a couple issues while Batgirl dealt with this weird, awkward
Yeah,
interruption.
that's what we're saying here. Is like if Batgirl in her own book's doing her own thing, just have her appear in whatever Batman book they want her to be in, and it really doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, that brings with it its own awkwardness because, like, then
It's one of those. It's just easier to keep track of for people.
yeah,
You should
but then,
be
like-
excited to see that there's a character making a guest appearance in your story. Like I
Not
should,
dreading. Oh no, I'm gonna have to pick up Batgirl issues 63 and 64 to
Yeah.
fill in the blank.
Get the
or
full
whatever.
I mean,
context behind it.
sometimes it does. Sometimes crossovers can just be funny and lighthearted. I'm thinking again of Power Girl, the run after the one that I actually like. One of the issues just starts with Superman and Power Girl fighting dinosaurs in the middle of the city with no context. And it turns out they're magic because when they bite Superman, it hurts. And
Magic
that spins
dinosaurs.
off into that spins off into a Zatanna crossover, and that's fun. That's good stuff. That reads like an episode of Justice League, and I'm all for that. Like, it's not like these concepts can't be done well, but
Unfortunately, I think just given the way things are done now in the comic book world, I think it's just always going to be that way because at the end of the day, they want to sell more comic books.
well, they'll sell more comic
More
books
comic
if
books
if they cut
don't-
that crap down. If they cut that crap off and sort of like, they really do need to look at the graphic novel and manga industry and what works there.
I
Well,
feel
they
like
already-
at this
they
point
already
they've
are
kind
to
of
an
just
ex-
written off superhero comics being big, and they just don't care. That's my only guess as to why
Like,
these
I-
things
my-
haven't
my-
changed. We've been
my
saying
guess
it for a
is-
decade.
Yeah, no, my guess is just that they use them to basically test run stories that they want to use for TV and movies later, as well as just see if we come up with a new character that will become super
or
marketable
at the
later.
very least, gauge interest in
Yeah.
a particular character.
Yeah.
Like I was like, those Batgirl comics weren't doing too hot, so let's maybe hold off on that Batgirl solo film or some other shit. Maybe that's how it works.
Yeah, because ultimately the hardcore fans who are reading the comic books are the ones who are the biggest hype drummers for.
I mean, there are exceptions, of course, because obviously, like Action Comics number 1000 sold like millions of copies. but
Yeah,
it's
that's
very-
because it's number 1000.
At the same time, though, a lot of the time when a comic doesn't do well, it's generally because of executive meddling that it
Yeah.
doesn't do well.
Poor
like-
Cassandra Cain.
Oh, Kate Kane's Batwoman. I loved that series. It was a weird sort of, I have to be in a certain kind of mood to enjoy it. But that was less because of the content and more just because of the weird as fuck presentation style.
That's one where it has like
Every
flippy turny pages. and
every
stuff.
panel arrangement has to be a fucking work of art, and it's almost always non-linear in some way.
Yeah, it's really hard to read.
Yes, it's like the superhero comic book version of reading an old school classic. It's very dense in a visual sense. But like, then the comic series just sort of went off its own rails because the editors didn't like where the creative team was going, and the stuff that came after that was invariably worse and less interesting. So, I don't know.
Keeping him quiet.
Because he knows
But like,
Right. Whatever the hell that
But
The
no,
other
just-
thing-
the biggest, honestly, at this point, regardless of what they do, the thing they have to do more than anything else is just, again, put them on Disney Plus, put them on HBO Max. You just get it as part of your subscription.
You know,
you will
yeah.
get people to read them.
That's fair.
Yeah, right now,
The primary issue is always just price. They're too
Like-
expensive for what you're getting.
what are the easy access options now? Comicsology and whatever,
Comixology is the only one I can think
and
of.
whatever like
got a pen?
e-store app, the DC and Marvel and Archie comic companies.
Is there
use.
one?
I'm pretty sure
I don't think
there
they're.
is, yeah.
I couldn't
not
tell
for-
you,
Not,
and
not
that's a
specifically for the.
problem.
They're like.
Hang on.
You could,
Yeah.
I mean, you could read them on like Kindle or something if they're like a trade or something. But
Yeah, because I occasionally buy trades from Amazon, and they always give you the option to like, put it in
Comixology
your
is
Kindle.
connected to Amazon, so it's an Amazon company. So there's some
Yeah.
cross compatibility there.
it's one of those. Again, just put them on Disney Plus and HBO Max.
Let me see. DC Comics app. I remember there being an app. DCComics.com.
I don't think there is an app for DC. I think it was. What they did was that DC Universe thing for a while, and that got that shut down.
That might be what I was
Was there a
looking at.
problem with it? Was it just not a good service, or?
It was too expensive for what it was, and they were refusing to do weeklies on there.
Oh, what's
it
the
was one of
point
the-
of having an
Yeah, I was
app
gonna say- I
that
was gonna
holds
say-
your comics if you can't get the new issue every week? That's what I know.
Yeah.
A ton of people who have the Shonen Jump
Wait.
app so they can get the new
Wait.
Shoujin.
They
Shoujin,
have
but,
DC Universe Infinite, which is DC Universe
Finite.
Infinite
I-
under
I-
DC All Access account.
I still don't
If-
think it does weeklies, though, is the problem.
yeah, and that's like
Yeah,
the
it's
whole
like-
point of getting an app to do it. Like the Shonen Jump app, I know a bunch of people who have that and get the new.
It's only $2 a month too. It's really nice.
Yeah, you get the new episode.
Chapters
Tell me
every week.
more.
Of like One Piece, of Demon Slayer, of.
Well, Demon Slayer's over, but yeah.
Oh,
Either way, it's something that Western comics should take notes from and do it themselves.
yeah. I
basically,
feel
is what you're
like
getting at.
they haven't.
It's just one of those. It's like, oh, we're worried about pricing. It's like, okay, you can sell maybe 10,000 comics at $3-4 a piece now. It's like, oh, we're going to be selling all those comics for only a
What is-
subscription. It's like, yeah, but you're only selling 10,000 copies at most. If you put it on an app or something, you're going to get a couple million active people doing it.
Okay, I should close this
So-
tab and actually watch the Spider-Man footage again before.
No,
No,
we're
we're
just-
just
no, we're just-
playing
we're just-
Pipe Dream. You can
No,
go
we're
back. You
doing.
can
We're,
go
yeah,
back.
yeah.
Okay,
It's like we're
then-
doing
So
Okay.
it's one of those just the business model behind comics is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I do agree that I wish at this point, as far as I'm aware, there's one that doesn't exist where I could just get everything inside like my iPad.
The other inherent issue with superhero comics in particular is that they don't really have a whole lot of long-term consistency. There's a run where a creative team takes over for a year, maybe two, and every creative team brings like a completely unique style to the comic. So like, say what you want about Archie Sonic. Weird place to bring this up, I know. But it stays in one particular style for a long stretch of its issue count.
I mean, honestly,
So-
Archie Sonic was fairly successful as far as comics go.
Right. It almost has weirdly.
Well, I think even throughout the whole shit show of that run, towards the middle of it anyway, it was still like I think the most successful video game adaptation comic
I
book.
mean, it went on for like over 300 issues. You don't do that by accident.
yeah.
you
But
know.
like
yeah.
my point with Archie Sonic is that it stayed in one particular style for a long time. When it was the Ken Penders Lanky Sonic soap opera run, it was
Yeah.
Ken Penders Lanky Sonic soap opera for a long time. When it was the Ian Flynn era, it was the Ian Flynn era for a long time. And now IDW is pretty much that same style. So there's even
Yeah, but we're
there's-
Sonic fans though. We keep coming back even after being beaten into submission.
Yeah, that's,
but,
a, that's, a
that's
separate
nothing new.
problem.
It's like that's
like-
nothing new.
when you get when you pick up a Sonic comic, you know what you're getting into. You know the feel and the tone and the writing style. It feels like one ongoing series rather than 10 shorter series that just happen to share the same title and be chronologically one after the other.
Yeah, it would be
That's-
like expecting the 80s and 90s Batman movies to all be like feel the same. You know, it's just like you go from movie to movie and there's a lot of director and tone whiplash, but that's okay because they're movies and we expect that. But like if that were a TV show instead, people would be really, really confused and be like, "What the fuck?"
Well,
Why-
yeah, but like
why are there
this,
bat nipples now?
but what I'm talking about is even like part of the reason for the MCU's success. The MCU, like for all of the warts that come with its tropes and all, it's consistent. Like an MCU movie is an MCU movie. You know, you generally know what kind of movie you're in for.
Which I feel the longer it goes on is going to be more and more of a detriment.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
in
but
in a sense, because they don't mix it up enough within that style, I think. But
No, that's my bigger problem as to why I don't watch
like
all of them. It's like, oh, I watch all the Marvel movies. So I'm like, how? They're like 90% the same thing.
well, that's the thing though, is that you don't need to watch all of them, and that's why. And like, you don't need to watch. You don't need to read every single Marvel comic or every single DC
to an
comic.
extent, I feel that's also like, but you're also making it a big shared universe. So it's like it feels like you almost want. They definitely are trying to lean you into wanting to though.
Well, I mean,
they could.
that's what they want. Marvel would.
But they
love
gotta
you
make
to-
money, yeah.
Marvel would love you to
Yeah.
read all 50 issue runs that they're doing right now, because then they get all of your money. You know, that's the whole point. But you
like-
don't need to, which is part of what's good about it.
Yeah, but like that's a separate problem from, well, not entirely separate, but like they could fix that problem without changing the style.
Yeah.
And I think people who enjoy the style would continue to enjoy the style. They would just enjoy it more, you know?
or at least enjoy as much for different reasons.
Yes. Whereas with the comics, like you pick up a comic and its visual style might be completely different from what you're used to, and in a way that doesn't necessarily gel with you. Like compare Mark Waid Daredevil to another run of Daredevil. There's a completely different vibe.
Yeah, you can't
know?
go right from who's its face? Dark and gritty guy.
The dark and gritty Matt Murdock.
Which one?
Dark
The
and-
famous one who did the Batman one.
Dark and
God.
gritty Matt
Again,
Murdock.
which one?
Oh God.
Dar-
It's the
Like,
guy who also
example.
did Sin City.
There's a
Frank Miller.
Frank
There's-
Miller. Thank you, God.
There's a particular run of Daredevil where I mentioned this before. Matt Murdock is working out of an elevator shaft as a prosecuting attorney. There's another run of Daredevil where he's cheekily sort of going out doing parkour stuff in Matt Murdock guise with his stick and his sunglasses and all, just having a good time with a smirk on his face. These feel like two completely different series, you know, but they're the same series, just different
Lewis,
runs.
do you have your video on loop and think that we haven't stopped yet?
No.
No? Okay, cool.
Okay, well, we're stopping now.